Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. My name is Matt, and as always, I'm joined by Venush to talk about everything basketball. And today's the big one. We're done all of our other positional top 10s. We're on point guards. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I don't think you are, because you have not seen my list. Okay, you started off. Let's go 10, 9, 8.
At 10, I have Kemba Walker. At 9, I have Trae Young. And at 8, I have Chris Paul.
Okay, so right off the bat, you're 10, 9. I don't even have on my list.
Wow.
Kemba and Trae.
Wow.
And I guess we'll talk about that in a sec. But my number 10 is Ben Simmons. And then my number 9 is a guy you probably have in your top 5, Russell Westbrook. And then my number 8 is one of my favorite players of this season in Ja Morant.
Wait. You know this is the top 10 best point guards, not
Yeah.
top 10 favorite point guards.
Top 10 best point guards.
So you think Ja Morant is better than Ben Simmons?
I think he's way better than Ben Simmons.
And Westbrook right now.
Tell me right now that if you put Ja Morant on the Sixers, they do not get instantly better.
If you put Ben Simmons on the Grizzlies, how much better do they get?
They get worse.
No, they don't. You know Jaren Jackson hit the 3. You know they have a lot better shooters. And you know Ben Simmons makes that crazy team.
I completely disagree. They have some shooters, but Valanciunas is not a shooter. Anderson is not a shooter. They have Justice Winslow now, who's definitely not a shooter.
He wasn't playing though.
Okay, fine.
Dylan Brooks, who's a shooter.
He's a good shooter. Jaren Jackson's a good shooter.
Jaren Jackson's an amazing shooter.
Yeah, all right.
Like, how is Ben Simmons? Okay, your number one power forward was Giannis, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does Ben Simmons do worse than Giannis besides score?
Okay, I know what Ben Simmons can do because when he has spacing around him, he looks like a different player. But 90% of the time, what we see is a guy who can only score in the paint. And when he's surrounded by guys who can't shoot, he looks like a liability. Like, just look at the playoffs last year. He's a playoff liability. He can only score in the paint. Okay, blame Brett Brown if you want.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm blaming.
If Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are on the same team, that should be the second best pick and roll in the league for me, behind obviously LeBron and AD. And the fact that it's just we don't even talk about them in that conversation that's why I have Ben Simmons so low. Not only that reason, but that's one of the reasons I have him so low on my list.
Who's the best defensive point guard?
But him.
Yeah.
Definitely
and
him.
You have him 10th.
Okay, yeah.
The best defensive point guard by a mile. I wouldn't
say by a mile.
I know Jrue Holiday is a really good defensive shooting guard, but since he's not a point guard anymore, it is by a mile. The second best is Lonzo Ball, and you know that's a big difference.
It is a big difference. He's an unreal defender. He's not going to win it, but if he won Defensive Player of the Year, if he finished in the first team all defense, he should finish in the first team all defense. Yeah. To me, the reason I have Simmons and Westbrook so low is because I feel like you need to build a team around those guys. And if I want a point guard and I want to win on a team with a point guard, the point guard should be the guy making the other guys on the team better, not the other guys on the team having to be the right type of player so that they can actually not look like a liability.
Yeah, but your number one pick, he's the best player on the team. Okay, the number one guy is going to be LeBron James.
Yes, obviously. But I'm okay.
What's the difference?
The difference is that even if you put LeBron on a team of all non-shooters, he would still go off and be one of the best players in the league. But if you put Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook on teams where they have no shooters, they cannot win a single thing
Westbrook won an MVP. His MVP season.
Okay, congrats. He got bounced in the first round.
Well, what has Ja Morant done?
Ja Morant brought his team to the playoffs. Ja Morant.
Westbrook hasn't brought his team to the playoffs when he had no one?
He brought his team. Okay, but I bet Ja Morant is going to
lose in the first round.
Lose in the first round too. But Westbrook finished with a higher seed that year. Anyway,
for Westbrook.
Okay, but I don't know how you cannot. I can understand not having Ja Morant above Russell Westbrook, but I don't see how you don't even have him on the list. This guy
was he better than Kemba Walker?
Kemba Walker is not a defender.
Everything you explained. Wait, let's say everything you explained. How he fits better on the team. He's a good shooter. He plays with great players. Kemba Walker is the perfect player to have when you have another star.
Okay.
He's so good at shooting, facilitating, moving off ball.
Okay, but where's the other star on Memphis?
Jaren Jackson Jr.
Okay, he wasn't even in your top 10 centers. He was
He was
for
in your
me.
top 10, yeah.
He was in my top 10. But
Yeah.
okay, so you're telling me Ja Morant was drafted. I know they weren't actually the second worst team in the league, but he was drafted second overall last year.
Yeah.
And he but then this year he comes out of nowhere and leads them to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
A Memphis team, okay? He
Yeah.
only took 14 shots a game and averaged 18 points.
18 points. That's it.
17.7.
That's it.
Okay.
17.7.
Have you seen his usage rate? Look at Russell Westbrook. Like, I looked at the usage rate today, and Russell Westbrook is sixth in the league with a 33% usage rate, average 7 assists. You know what,
Yeah.
Ja Morant? Ja Morant is like 44th in the league with a 26% usage rate and average 7 assists. So Ja Morant is making his teammates better with almost no touches on the ball, only 14 shots a game, 37% from three. He's a 3-level scorer.
You're talking about a 17-point scorer.
We've seen him attack. Okay, but we're talking point guards. Chris Paul doesn't average 20 points this year.
Yeah, but you left off a 30-point scorer who gets 9.3 assists and 4.3 rebounds.
I love Trae Young. I'm not one of those guys who says Trae Young.
Off?
I'm not one of those guys who says Trae Young is an empty stats guy who's never gonna have
clearly
success.
are, because you don't have him on the top 10.
I almost have him on the top 10. He's an honorable mention for me. I love him.
He is on the top 10 easily.
His efficiency, it leaves a lot to be desired. I understand this because he has really bad teammates around him, and it will improve with teammates.
He barely has NBA players around him. You have to cut him slack.
He's had zero.
Which NBA player has he had on him besides John Collins, who was suspended for 25 games this season?
He's had no NBA players. Yeah. Jeff Teague for like 5 games.
5 games, yeah.
More than 5 games. But okay, like not a lot of these guys are not defenders on this list.
Mm-hmm.
But Trae Young is a different type of bad on defense. He is a different type of bad.
I don't know, man.
He's just ugly to watch on defense. Now, like, I'm not going to weigh that too heavily because a lot of these guys suck on defense. But, like, he's had – I will put him in my top 10 very soon. But he's had absolutely zero team success. So I can't justify it right now.
But you had Devin Booker in your top 4 shooting guards.
Yeah, okay, but shooting guards is not even close to as deep a list as these. Like, there's a lot of good players that left off my list.
Trae Young is better than Devin Booker. Non-positional arguments. So if you don't have Trae Young, that means you think Ja Morant is better than Devin Booker as well.
Yeah, I do. 100%.
What has Ja Morant done besides be average? Like, he's a really good rookie.
This guy,
if you take a rookie out of it, he's average.
No, I completely disagree. Have we ever seen a player with his mix of athleticism and the fact that he's a 3-level scorer? He's consistent from 3 the whole year, 37% the whole year. He's got the mid-range game, but his best skill is his playmaking. Okay. Name me one player that is as athletic as him, as skilled as him, but whose best skill is making his teammates better and who was consistent the entire year. No ups, no downs. He's just consistent the whole year.
There's so much by Luka Doncic.
Okay, we're gonna get into him. He's obviously higher on my list.
Chris Paul.
Spoiler alert: Chris Paul higher on my list.
There's great players like that. Kemba Walker.
But they don't have that athleticism.
You don't think Kemba Walker's quickness? Kemba Walker is defined by his quickness.
Have you seen Ja Morant attack the rim?
Yeah, okay, if we're talking athleticism, then Westbrook should be number 1.
Okay, but Russell Westbrook does not have the 3-point shot. He does not have the playmaking that Ja Morant has.
You're taking 3-point shooting to putting it too much value into it.
You're the guy who put DeMar DeRozan as number 9 on your list because he can't of small forwards because he can't shoot.
Yeah. But we're talking about historic stats.
Okay.
Russell Westbrook is going to go down as a historic player. No one else has averaged a triple-double for 3 straight seasons besides Westbrook.
He didn't average one this year.
Okay, yeah, he still averaged 3 straight before.
It was 2 straight, but...
Yeah, okay, but no one has averaged 2 straight.
Fine. The stats are fine.
MVP, playoffs, consistently, and, like, it's not his fault that Paul George was injured and sucked in that series. Like... And when Harden went down and was slowing down, who stepped up and was having an MVP type of month?
Okay.
Just a month, but
I wouldn't even have him on my list if it weren't for what he looked like after they traded Capella and PJ Tucker started playing center, and we just saw Westbrook being guarded by guys who have absolutely no business guarding him. Like, we saw Rudy Gobert would be on him sometimes. That's just a joke. Like, obviously he's not going to be able to stop him. But
okay, if Westbrook and Ja Morant switch teams,
yeah,
Memphis gets way better.
I think they get way worse.
They do not. They get better.
No, he cannot. Memphis look. You say that because you think, oh, Memphis had a pretty good team around Ja Morant. But I would say, without Ja Morant being there to set them up, do they even look nearly as good? These two guys average the same number of assists, but Westbrook has the ball in his hands like so much more than Ja Morant. This guy barely needs any touches, and he can just set up his teammates, make the whole team run smoothly and look better.
But can Ja Morant play off ball at all?
Yes, this guy's
I don't know.
he's so athletic. He can shoot, spot up, he can pull up off the dribble, attack the closeout. He's just a smart player, and he makes the smart passes every time. Doesn't
It's
do
just
anything.
disrespectful
What
to
can he
have
not
him.
do on offense? What can he not do on offense?
But he's not even a great defender. You're acting like he's an all-time defender.
No, did I say he was a good defender?
But that means Ben Simmons still has to be above him.
No, because I think Ben Simmons' offensive shortcomings would make him a less valuable player in the long run if you're trying to win games right now. Like I would, if you could switch those two players right now, I think Philadelphia becomes East contenders.
If you switch Ben Simmons and Giannis, I think the Bucks slide down to the second seed, third seed. They don't slide more than that.
Okay.
You just need to build a team around Westbrook and Ben Simmons.
Okay, and that's why I have them lower, because for me, if I'm looking for point guards, I'm looking for a guy who can make the whole team better. Just make the team make sense. I don't want to have to worry about building around.
You can't have Giannis as one of your best NBA players because you need to build around Giannis too.
You do, but he's not a point guard. I mean, that doesn't really
mean
I'm
saying anything, as NBA players,
yeah.
Like you can't have Giannis too high then.
Okay, but Giannis is different because he's 7 feet tall. These guys are like 6'1", 6'2", 6'3".
Ben Simmons is 6'10".
Okay.
So.
But I mean, no, I
always talk about size and
yes, okay, but I don't want to talk about what I think someone can do. I want to talk about what I've seen from them, and what I've seen from Ben Simmons is this guy. He's supposed to be one of the most talented players in the league. Mm-hmm. Everyone agrees that some people call him Baby LeBron. I don't know about that.
But Baby Giannis, that's what he is.
Okay, sure, Baby Giannis, but he's had absolutely zero team success, and the only thing we talk about with him is, do we need to split up Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons?
Ben Simmons had zero team success.
Okay, that I overstated that a little bit. He's had a little bit of team success, but not much. He made the playoffs once.
As a Raptors fan, you should know he was one shot away with multiple bounces from going to the finals, basically.
I don't think they would have beaten Milwaukee.
I think they would have, but that's a
okay. But yeah, whatever. Okay, he's had a little bit of team success.
A little bit. He had a decent amount of team success.
But he was by far not even close to the best player on Philly. I would put him at like number 4 in that series.
But who did the best assigned defender that we think in this generation? Who was he guarding? He wasn't guarding Jimmy Butler. He was guarding Ben Simmons because, if you stop Ben Simmons, you stop the flow of that team. You disrupt their flow and you change them. That's why they got worse.
I don't know. You see in the playoffs when it slows down and there's not a lot of transition and it's guys have to create shots on every part of the floor. Ben Simmons just looked like an absolute liability.
Why weren't they putting Kawhi on Jimmy though? They weren't putting Kawhi on Jimmy though.
They were late game.
Like very late game when it was like 2 minutes left, but most of the game
and that's
Kawhi
when Jimmy
was on
coming
Ben Simmons.
alive. Jimmy would average like 8 points a game in the final 30 seconds.
Yeah, but you need it on Ben Simmons because Ben Simmons creates the flow of the game. He creates the pace of the game. He creates fast breaks. He creates transition, like using his great defense.
What about the games where he has 10 turnovers? I guarantee he has maybe it's between him and Westbrook for leading the league in over 8 turnover games.
Yeah, it's definitely Westbrook.
It's definitely Westbrook or Simmons.
No, it's definitely Westbrook then Harden, then probably Simmons.
Okay, fine, maybe Harden, yeah.
But you can't hate on Westbrook because Westbrook's had so much team success too. Like this works.
No, I know.
Why would you change something that works?
I don't want to sound like a hater. I don't want to say I'm a Westbrook hater. I want to just say that I love Ja Morant so much that I think right now he could literally, if he was on a little bit better of a team, he could go pretty far in the playoffs. I think he's literally that good. Like, I don't know. You still haven't told me.
Chris Paul above him, above Westbrook.
I have Chris Paul way above Westbrook.
Which is a very questionable decision because they got traded for each other. And it was picks going to get Westbrook. You know what I mean? Picks came with Chris Paul.
Okay, but that's because we didn't think we would ever see another healthy season from Chris Paul. And Chris Paul this year, healthy the entire year for the first time in a while, and only a 49% field goal percentage. Is that good enough for you? His assists went down a little bit this year, but
quite a bit. Not just a little bit.
But he played. But
classic Chris Paul.
Most of the time, they were playing 3-guard lineups with Schroeder and Shea, so the ball spreading around a lot. Assists and the playmaking is being distributed between 3 guys, and a good playmaking 4 in Gallinari.
So I had Chris Paul at 8.
Naturally, the assists are going to go down a little bit.
And the reason I had Chris Paul at 8 was he can't do it for a whole game. We know that's true. He could only do it in the fourth quarter you see him looking to Shea and being like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
you need to get this bucket. You see him looking to Gallinari and be like, yo, you need to go get this bucket because I can't right now. You can see his gas tank. Just it's what an old player is. He can't play a full game. He doesn't have that energy to do so, and his defense. He can't defend even the point guard for a full game now. You see him pushing Shea to the better defender, and you see him like, "Yo, let me rest this play." Like you see Shea. I don't want to overstate Shea because he's a Canadian and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
but he's basically reviving Chris Paul's career too, because he guards the best player. He sometimes officiates the offense. Like he's giving Chris Paul so much more energy, and Chris Paul's getting a lot more open touches, and Shea is just changing up the game for him.
I mean, no, that is true. I don't think that we would have seen this kind of season from Chris Paul if he didn't have as many guys to defer to on that team.
Yeah.
But I still think he basically brought a team that a lot of people were writing off into a pretty high playoff seed. I wouldn't, okay, maybe not a lot of people, but maybe the mainstream casual fans were writing them
It's
off.
because the mainstream was writing it off because we expected trades. We expected them to be like an 8 seed. They obviously did a lot better, but we expected trades to happen mid-season, get more picks.
Yeah, and we weren't expecting
and just
Shea
build
to have a
around Shea.
breakout like he did this year.
Yeah, and we expected Shea to be like a 15-point scorer, not a 20-point scorer.
Yeah.
So,
but I just
that also stepped up too.
I mean, Chris Paul, when healthy, he's just like the prototypical pure point guard, if you will. You know, he can score on every level. He can knock down free throws.
Yeah.
I always talk about getting to the free throw line. He can do that. Still 1.6 steals a game. So maybe he's not guarding the best guy on the floor the entire game, but he's still, when it counts, playing some high level defense.
The reason I have him so low is because he just can't do it for a full game anymore. He cannot take over games.
He played under 32 minutes a game this year.
Yeah.
Which, if you're going to be like a primetime guy, a go-to guy in the playoffs, you need to play like 40 minutes a game.
And everyone who I have above him can take over games from beginning to end, whether that's on the defensive end or offensive end. They're just full-time players.
Man.
The reason I have Trae Young below him, who can take over games at full-time ends, is because he just hasn't won anything, so I gave him the 9 spot. And the reason I have Kemba Walker below him is because he also differs quite a bit to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I don't want to sound like I'm hating on Kemba or hating on Trae Young, because I think this is by far the deepest position. Like it hurts me to leave the four biggest names that left off this list are Kemba, Trae Young, D'Angelo Russell, and Brogdon. That hurts
I left
me.
someone off the list that you still have on, which I'm pretty sure I know who it is.
Oh, I definitely know who it. Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah.
I can't believe you left him off. Man. Anyway, so I left those 4 guys off, but those guys are good enough to be on, like, compared to the other top 10 lists, those guys are good enough to be on a top 10 list. But I just think it's such a deep position. The one thing I want to say about Westbrook before we get off that is, to me, where I see a guy like Ja Morant or Chris Paul maybe not putting up the same numbers, taking over games in terms of scoring as much as him, but they're making their teammates better, like I already said. The thing with Westbrook for me is he's an extremely explosive player, obviously, but he's more of a your turn, my turn guy. Like we saw Kevin Durant was your turn, my turn.
Yeah.
Paul George, your turn, my turn. James Harden, your turn, my turn. And when he's with Kevin Durant, the ceiling is finals. When he's with Paul George, the ceiling is first round exit. When he's with James Harden, what is the ceiling? First round, second round exit?
You say he's a bad teammate, right?
I'd say he's a bad teammate. I just don't think he's a point guard. I think he's more of a
Kevin Durant has won an MVP.
Center.
Kevin Durant won an MVP with Westbrook. Paul George was 3rd place in MVP
if he didn't
with
get
Westbrook.
Hurt, he would have been.
And James Harden is what, 4th or 3rd, depending on the player, depending on the person.
Okay.
This year. So we're talking about players that succeed to a level where they're almost MVP with Westbrook on the team. He knows that he has a great player around him, and he knows, okay, let this guy do his thing. Let me maybe cut to the basket when I'm open, or maybe let me just stay on the 3-point perimeter and maybe drag the point guard defender off them, which sometimes they do. They still guard Westbrook at the 3 for some reason.
For some reason, watch games, I don't know why.
It's because of how quick he is to cut into the basket, right?
Yeah.
So he knows his role, and he just plays that role to a great extent. There's a lot of times in those, when they were up 3-1 against Golden State, those Thunder teams, a lot of people blamed Kevin Durant, not Westbrook. There's a lot of times where he just does his role, and maybe he relies on someone too much. That's why he's not.
He took 23 shots a game this year. I wouldn't say he relied on James Harden too much.
But what do you mean he took 23 shots? Who's the 3rd scorer? Who's not getting enough shots?
You don't like Ben McLemore?
You want Ben McLemore to shoot more?
No, I'm kidding. Just try to look at what he looked like before the Rockets broke basketball and made PJ Tucker their starting center. He wasn't taking a lot of threes, but he was not hitting a lot of threes. He was having a historically bad season from an efficiency perspective. So I just think if you need to basically completely reinvent basketball to make a player look efficient and look like you can win with him, he just can't be that high on my list.
Didn't they reinvent basketball for Giannis? They got a shooter that just shoots the ball at center. And he doesn't even go for rebounds. He just shoots. That's all he does.
Okay.
But like, you're talking about teams like Westbrook. I think you're just underestimating how hard it is to score in the NBA. That's why you don't have Trae Young in this list as well. I think you just believe like someone like Ja Morant, if he shot 23 times, could score 25.
No, not necessarily, because I think he understands that he's not the type of guy who can just take a million shots and average 30. So that's why he doesn't play to his weaknesses like that. He just knows what his limits are, and he's able to set up his teammates, make the offense just flow smoothly. And the team did really well this year. No one was expecting Memphis in the playoffs.
I think players like Trae Young and Westbrook, you have to congratulate them on their stamina that they have, just to go out and just shoot.
No, that is really fair because Westbrook, aside from injuries, he is one of the most not durable, but he's one of the most reliable players in terms of having stamina for an entire game, for an entire playoff series. James, you can't say that about James Harden on that team.
Yeah, but like, let's go back on Trae Young. He scored 30 points. When was he not getting tripled?
No, yeah.
Like he was getting tripled, doubled, like a zone system made just for Trae Young. Like all the focus was on him. Beat the Hawks. All you have to do is stop Trae Young. You let anyone else score, who's gonna score more than like 25 on that team if Trae Young has a bad game?
Nobody, other than
nobody.
No, because John Collins can't do it without Trae Young beating the ball. Like probably not even. But no, I love Trae Young.
Yeah.
I just can't put him on my list for a guy who's had absolutely no team success. So I don't understand how you couldn't have Kyle Lowry on this list. He is maybe not the best player on the Raptors, but definitely leader of the Raptors, who ended up with the second seed. The season's not over yet, but as it stands now, the Raptors are the second seed under Milwaukee, over Philly, over Miami, over Boston, and I don't think you can overstate that. I understand they have a very good roster compared to some of those teams around him, but he is one of the best point guards I've ever seen at knowing when to try to take over a game, knowing when to defer, knowing when to just set up the bigs in the pick and roll. And he is one of the most hard-nosed defenders in the league. I don't think you can overstate his intangibles. Led the league in charges drawn again. Just competes every single play, and he's just a winner.
I don't know about that, because if you look how good that Raptors team is, you got Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, Pascal Siakam, Marcus Gasol, Serge Ibaka. You just have a great team. If you take Kyle Lowry and put him on a lesser team and ask him to do more, I don't think he's anywhere as good as he is. I think he's so good because he could just defer, and pick his spots. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, now all the attention's on Siakam. Let me drive to the rim. Ooh, Norman Powell just scored 2 straight threes. People are on him a lot tighter. Okay, let me dish it to Marcus Gasol and let him set up in the post. Just because he makes good decisions and is a good basketball player. I'm not saying he's number 11th on my list. Just because he makes good decisions, good passes, good reading of the game, doesn't mean he's a top 10 point guard in my opinion. Like, he cannot be like, okay, it's my turn to win this game for the Toronto Raptors.
Game 6 of the NBA Finals? Game 6 of the NBA Finals?
He started off hot. Because
they wouldn't win that game if he didn't start off like that.
That's was Golden State's plan, though. Did you see how, like, they all of Golden State focused on Siakam and Kawhi? They said, we shut these two guys down, we win. Kyle Lowry said, no, man, I'm a good third option. And he went off. And he's not even the best player in that game. Fred VanVleet played better that game. And you know that's true.
End of the game, second half, sure.
Yeah, overall in the game, he played better. Yeah.
But, okay, so I do agree with you that if you said, Kyle Lowry, here's an average team that you're clearly the best player on, go make the playoffs or go win a playoff series, no, they don't win. But I do think...
Not even close.
No, but I do think that if you took any of the guys that I have under him, like Kyrie,
Kemba,
Kemba, these guys, I don't think the Raptors win last year, and I don't think they're in the second seed this year, and I think that their playoff prospects are a lot lower this year. Just because he is one of the smartest and
We're
most
talking about
selfless players that is in the league today, who can score if you ask him to, but isn't a guy that you would rely on to average 25, 27 a game, but can still have that kind of impact on the game just by setting up his teammates and just competing every play and knowing when to pick his spots and knowing when to defer, like you said.
But a player like Kyrie Irving, who you had below him, surprisingly, can just go score. Like he could draw so much attention, and he could just switch everything.
I would have the only reason I have Kyrie this low on the list is because, and while it's the excuses are valid because of injury and team drama and all that stuff, but he has just not had any success recently at all. He's just either off the court for whatever reason or alienating his teammates for whatever reason, and it's affecting his play on the court, and he just has not.
Agree.
And we just have not seen a big enough sample size of him that I can say, yes, he affects winning more than Kyle Lowry because he's just never playing for long enough.
I just have, in 2016, Kyrie Irving was more important for that Cavs championship than 2019 Kyle Lowry for the Raptors championship, in my opinion.
I agree, but that was 4 years ago, so that's why I have.
Yeah, that was 4 years ago.
That's the last time we saw him impact winning at a high level.
Yeah, that's why he's number 7 on my list too, because of his recent play.
Yeah.
So we kind of agree on.
He's
Kyrie.
number 5 on my list if he's healthy, maybe even higher.
Same. He's number 5 on my list if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we agree on Kyrie, but someone like Kemba Walker, how can you have him below Kyle? I have Kemba 10, Lowry 11, so they're very close. But Kemba Walker is just a superior offensive player in every aspect of the game.
Disagree. I really like Kemba, but what if we're talking about point guards here, and what if I told you that he has only averaged 6 assists once in his career, and that was in 2013? That's not what I want on a point guard. I want a guy who
does he need to get assists? Why does he need to get assists? You know, Jason Tatum is best when he has the ball in his hand and can create the play. Jalen Brown is best when he gets the ball and can create an offensive play. Gordon Hayward likes to create his own offensive shot too.
I agree this year, but I'm just saying his entire career, we've only seen him average 6 assists once. Okay. And this is a guy who you're saying isn't that okay.
Hornets team had who on them? Nick Batum was his best offensive player beside him ever.
But you just said Trae Young is averaging high assist numbers on a team that has even worse players than those Hornets teams.
Yeah, that's why Trae Young's one spot ahead of him.
No, I love Kemba, but he's a one-dimensional player for me. He's a scorer. He's a really good leader. Like he's the leader on Boston this year, even though he's not the best.
100%.
Kind of similar to Kyle Lowry, but he's an amazing scorer, and he gets better every year. Even this year, I would probably even say this year is his best year, even though he's not averaging the numbers he did last year.
Yeah.
But for a point guard, I want a guy who I can rely on to set up the rest of his teammates, have a 12 assist game every now and then, not just have to have the ball in your hands to affect the game.
But you can't say Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum don't have the ball enough in their hands. Like Kemba Walker knows when to give it to them.
No, I completely agree.
Step in the corner.
It's just that offense is more of a Tatum ISO, Kemba ISO, maybe like a smart cut by Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward type of thing. But it's not a lot of like Kemba Walker pick and roll. Maybe that's because they don't have a good center on the team.
They don't have a good center, yeah.
That's possible. So maybe and he's never really ever had a good center. So maybe that is true. That's fair. Maybe because you can get a lot of easy assists off the pick and roll. But it's just because playmaking for me is the most important thing in a point guard, and scoring is secondary, kind of. But that's why I have him lower on the list. He would be number 11.
I think Kyle Lowry's a great player. I think he's going to get his jersey retired and everything like that. But you have to admit, he's been gifted with centers. He's had Jonas Valanciunas, who's a great pick and roller. Now he has Marcus Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Siakam.
Yeah, you're right. He definitely has.
He's very privileged as a point guard.
But he's made the best use of them. So that's why I have him on the list, because he's done a lot with that opportunity to be able to play with really good big men. And he makes we've seen him make Chris Boucher look good at times. And all these – Chris Boucher had by far his best season in the NBA this year. And I think that's a lot due to Kyle Lowry. maybe some Terrence Davis in there.
I don't even know if Kyle Lowry is the best point guard on his team anymore.
You think
Fred
Fred VanVleet
VanVleet
is no.
is stepping up, and it's becoming a
Fred VanVleet
conversation.
Fred VanVleet I honestly could argue maybe Fred VanVleet could score and take over a game better than Kyle Lowry, but he can't run the offense like Kyle Lowry. He just can't.
But it's becoming a conversation. That's fair to have.
He's the clear number 2. And it's not 1A,
I think
1B. He's the clear number 2.
I think it's very close, and I don't think you could put Kyle Lowry on here just because his team's so great. That's like putting Chris Middleton as a top like 3 shooting guard or small forward because his team's so great and he's doing so well on it. Like,
but
you have to give him some credit.
But with Chris Middleton is taking advantage a lot of the time of opportunities created by Giannis on that team. Kyle Lowry is the one who's making the guys on his team look good. Like Pascal, you know how many times Pascal Siakam will be sprinting down the floor in transition? He'll just catch a dime from Lowry an inch above the rim, and all he has to do is tap it in.
Do you think players like Ben Simmons, Trae Young can't do those dimes?
No, they can. They just don't do it as often because they don't have as good players. But Kyle Lowry has as good players.
Yeah.
See it all the time. That's why I have him higher on the list.
But Kyle Lowry can't.
And you have to factor in his defense. He's not like a one-on-one lock you down type defender, but he's an amazing team defender.
He's not half a defender Ben Simmons is.
Have you ever seen a guy like Towns try to go up against Lowry in the post? He literally can't. He just passes out of it. They can't. They can't post Lowry up.
But he's not half a defender Ben Simmons is.
No, he's not. He's not. He's not. But he's a much, much, much better offensive player than Ben Simmons right now.
I just think
you put Ben Simmons on the Raptors, they get worse. You put Lowry on the Sixers, they get better. End of the day.
I just think for Ben Simmons and Westbrook, we don't need to talk about them anymore because you just
we already talked about them enough. Yeah,
you just think the building a team around them puts them down. I just think, how can you put Trae Young below Kyle Lowry? Like, he's just better than him in every aspect.
I don't think so, because I don't think you can just forget about Kyle Lowry on the defensive end. Trae Young he's not a 0 on the defensive end. He's a -20 on the defensive end. Kyle Lowry leads the league in charges every year. And for a point guard who's not supposed to be in the paint, he's leading the league in charges every year. He's grabbing he's only 6 foot. He's 6'0". They say 6'1", but he's 6'0", and he's grabbing 5-6 boards a game in big moments. Just starting the fast break, all the little things that don't show up on the stat sheet. That's kind of a cliche, but I think that's true with Kyle Lowry over any of these guys.
Okay, but name a good player that's on a bad team that has good defense. Trae just doesn't try on the defensive end because.
But if he tried, how good would he be? He's so tiny. He's not. Kyle Lowry's like, he doesn't look it, but he's actually kind of sneaky athletic. Trae Young is not.
A player you have definitely in the top 4, Steph Curry, is so bad defensively.
He's so bad.
He's so bad defensively.
So bad. Yeah.
But you have him in the top. Okay, let's say you have him in one of the top positions, but you don't have Trae Young in the top 10.
No, it's really close for me. Like, I love Trae Young. I do agree with you that if you took Trae Young right now and like put him on the Raptors, maybe I don't know if they get better, but he looks really good and he's getting a lot of those dimes that I talked about. He shoots deeper threes than Kyle Lowry, but their percentages are around the same. But he's a better shot creator than Kyle Lowry, without a doubt. But we just have not seen him play winning basketball ever. So I just cannot justify putting him above Kyle Lowry, who's now an NBA champion, who's like a 6-time All-Star now. I just can't justify that.
I don't know, man. I think you're underrating how hard it is to score. Because players like Trae Young, they do it for the whole game. Constant pressure, 24/7. Players like Westbrook, Ben Simmons, they're like focal points. Players like Kyle Lowry, Chris Paul, they defer. They get the second best player, third best player
but I think,
to go off.
I agree, but I think when especially if you're a small guy and you're the point guard with the ball in his hands, if you're a one-dimensional player like that, I don't think Trae Young's a one-dimensional player because I think he's an even better passer than he is a scorer. But like you said with Westbrook and Ben Simmons, sorry, not Ben Simmons, Westbrook and Kemba, I think there's a ceiling on how good your team can be if your point guard is you're also your best scorer, but also a guy who is mainly a scorer and isn't setting up his teammates actively looking to create opportunities for everyone else. I mean, I've said that so many times already this episode, but like,
Yeah,
I really
I
just
think
feel that. I think there's a ceiling on
I
how good
think
your team can be if you don't have a multi-dimensional point guard who can score
I
and
think
defer.
I think Kemba Walker and the Celtics are in a much better chance of winning the championship than the Raptors this year. And I think this playoffs is going to really shake up people's mind for Kemba Walker because he's finally going to have some real success. And I think they're going to eliminate the Raptors if they match up. Uh, I think
Mm,
they're the best. I think they're the best threat against the Bucks in the East. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
it it's really close between those two. Out of all the
Yeah.
teams, as a Raptors fan, I'm definitely the most scared of the Celtics,
Hmm.
and Kemba is no small part of that. He's like you said, really good. We finally get to see him in the playoffs this year in
Yeah.
a meaningful playoff series, not one that he's just going to get that we know he's going to get swept in. But
Yeah.
so we've talked enough about these guys, I think. Want to
Yeah.
move on to the top four?
Yeah. I think the top four we kind of basically agree on.
Yeah,
So number four, I got Luka Doncic. Number three, I got Damian Lillard. Number two, I got Steph Curry. And number one, I got LeBron James.
exactly the same for me.
Yeah,
Wow,
like the
took
number
long enough,
four.
but we finally agree.
Yeah, you have to agree on the top four.
Yeah,
Like LeBron, do we need to talk about him?
no.
Like he's iconic. Steph Curry, just never seen a player like him. He changed
Mhm,
the game of basketball.
mhm,
Everyone's shooting threes now.
mhm.
Damian Lillard, he's a baller. He just tries
Yeah,
so hard this year. Tried so
crazy,
hard to pull those
crazy. And
trailblazers.
for the types of shots that he takes and the amount of shots that he takes, for him to put
Hmm.
up those efficiency numbers is like, I don't even know how that's possible. That's
Yeah.
insane. Those numbers are crazy.
And Luka Doncic, the only player contesting Giannis for the face of the league, like future face of the league,
Mhm.
is probably Luka Doncic, which is just iconic to say because Giannis is in his own tier, but Luka's catching up to him.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
will say that I think Luka Doncic, he is a more dynamic scorer than a guy like Dame, maybe
Hmm.
even more than a guy like Curry. He's just able to score in more ways because of his size. He's what, 6'9", 6'8", 6'9",
Yeah.
and he's unguardable coming off the screen. When he gets that
Yeah.
defender on his back hip and he looks like he's going to fake the floater or he draws
Hmm.
contact, gets to the line, it's literally unguardable. The issue with him is just efficiency. Like he takes 9 threes a game but only hit 32% this year.
Yeah.
So
And the thing, even though Curry and Dame aren't dynamic and you kind of know what shot they're going to take,
yeah,
they still get it off.
that's the insane part. Luka,
Like,
he the offense is a lot more unpredictable because number one, because the ball is always in his hands and it's either him
yeah.
coming up, it's always him just coming off the screen and either making a pass, drawing the defense, or just going in for a floater, getting to the line. Uh, but so he's able to make the offense more unpredictable. But the
Hmm.
thing is, since the ball is always in his hands, like he had a 32% usage rate this year, or 36% usage, sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, his team success directly depends on how efficient he is. And he has a lot of nights where he just is not efficient enough. So I
I
think,
think,
sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
I think a player like Luka Doncic, he's just so dynamic and like different where it's like it's hard to game plan for. Whereas someone
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Curry,
It doesn't
he's like
matter how much you game plan for him.
yeah, he's Mr. Fundamental
Yeah.
for point guards like under
Mhm.
6 foot,
Yeah.
moving off ball, shooting, playmaking.
Mhm.
Like you know how Tim Duncan is called Mr. Fundamental for big men?
Mm.
Steph Curry is Mr. Fundamental for the future generation of small guards.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna try to be like him. We always see this first doppelganger in Trey Young,
Yeah.
who's soon going to be on everyone's top 10 list. I know
Yeah.
you don't
No,
have
I
him this year,
completely. He
but in
very
two
definitely
years,
next year. He 100% will be on my top 10 list.
yeah, in 2 years he's going to be in the top 5, I think, easily.
I agree.
So yeah, like, and all these new like rookies that are coming in, they
Mhm.
all shoot long threes, like Lamelo Ball and stuff. Like everyone, that's just Steph Curry's.
Yeah.
He changed the game of basketball.
And Curry can dominate a game as much as Luka, but on half the
Hmm.
touches.
Yeah,
Like he can have the ball in his hands for a quarter of the time that Luka has, and he can put up the same number of points. It's just
yeah,
ridiculous. He's not the same compared to LeBron and Luka. Curry is not the same type of playmaker as them, but the way he affects the defense, just the way the defense just warps around him when he's shooting threes from half court, just
yeah.
assists open up, and he just takes advantage of it.
So
One of the best
like,
underrated one of the best handles in the
mhm,
league, definitely.
yeah. what I was gonna say is like he's the only player that I've seen get doubled when he doesn't have the ball.
Yeah,
Like
it's
when he just
ridiculous.
goes off his screen and both of the screen defenders come with him and it's an
Hmm.
easy dunk for the center.
Hmm.
Like his 3-point shooting is so feared in the NBA. It's like it's unprecedented.
Yeah.
And LeBron, and the only reason he's second is because LeBron James, he's in the conversation for the greatest of all time.
Hmm.
So we know how good he is. Like, but in my opinion, Curry, he's catching up to Magic Johnson as the best point guard of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I obviously never saw Magic Johnson, but I
Yeah.
can't really picture someone being that much better than Steph in terms of
Hmm.
just the eye test, seeing what he looks like on the
Yeah.
floor, and also just team success.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, the reason I have Dame obviously number 3, I just can't put him over Curry right now, even though, I mean, statistically, this is as good a season that Curry ever had right now that Dame's having. But
Hmm.
and he
But
doesn't like.
the difference
Sorry, go
is
ahead. Yeah.
they were the first seed when
Yeah.
Curry had the season,
Yeah.
and Dame's
Yeah.
the 9th seed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think Dame, he basically he does two things. He's either pulling up from 3 or he's driving straight to the rim, and he's insane.
Yeah.
That is the most efficient shot chart in the league. 37%
Hmm.
of his shots come from 3 on pull-ups, and 37% come from within 10 feet, and he's shooting
Hmm.
40% on those. Sorry, he's shooting 55% within 10 feet and 40% from on pull-up threes, which is just ridiculous for a point guard.
Yeah.
Um, but he also just kind of sneakily averaged 7.8 assists this year. Like what
Hmm.
Lillard averaged 8 assists. That's crazy. With a
Yeah.
team that wasn't even that good around him, that's pretty good. I know I wouldn't call him even close to the playmaker that Luka or LeBron is, but I mean, the way he's affecting the defense is just going to open that up so many opportunities. And actually, by the stats, he was the best pick and roll scorer in the league, which kind of surprised me.
Hmm.
1.14 points per possession off the pick and roll, and he ran it for 52% of the time on his plays, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
But that's what you want your
Actually,
point guard
like
to do.
I always wonder what would happen when Dame has like an elite center. Like
Yeah,
if he had a Karl Anthony Towns, if he had someone like an Anthony Davis who LeBron has,
yeah.
if he had a Joel Embiid. And honestly, man, like I know this trade would never happen, but I really hope Dame and Ben Simmons get swapped in the near future.
Ooh,
Because to be fair, the Portland Trailblazers are not going to win a championship
no,
with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum.
no.
If you could get younger and get someone who's on this list definitively,
Mm-hmm.
like I have him 6, you have him 10, but he has to be on everyone's list. Like
Yeah.
he cannot be lower than
Oh
10.
no, I completely agree. And honestly, it's not even his fault. It's front office slash Brett
Hmm.
Brown. He could be a lot higher on my list. I
And if you
understand his
put,
talent.
yeah, so if you put a secondary scorer like CJ McCollum next to Ben Simmons,
Mm-hmm.
that's a scary duo. And Ben Simmons, I think it's very easy to build around Ben Simmons.
Oh yeah,
You just get
I
shooters.
completely agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and for Portland Trailblazers, you do this because, I mean, for the Sixers, you do this because you kind of become title favorites, in my
Yeah.
opinion, at
Oh,
least.
yeah. Well, maybe not title favorites, but East favorites,
In
probably.
my opinion, they become title favorites with
Really,
that.
it's tough.
The
But
amount
yeah,
of depth
maybe.
they have surrounding the Dame, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, Josh Richardson, they
Yeah.
become a very deep
Okay.
team.
Well, it's not happening, but yeah,
Yeah.
they would definitely make the finals, most
Hmm.
likely. But yeah, so I mean, LeBron, we don't really have to say too much about him. Leading the league in assists in his
Yeah.
17th season, ridiculous. Obviously, he has the best pick and roll weapon in the league, but
Yeah.
still, and showing no signs of slowing down. He's about to get
First
5 months
seed.
off before the
Yeah.
playoffs, which is going to be scary. Yeah, there's. I mean, LeBron's the best point guard in the league. He's the best shooting guard in the league.
He's the best
He's
player in the league right now. That's just simple.
yeah.
Simply
I
put,
mean,
yeah. But
I'd probably
like,
lean towards. I would say Kawhi, but not based on the numbers, not based on production. I just think.
yeah,
But yeah, LeBron best.
this
Yeah.
this Lakers team is scary because they're not even that deep or that good.
No, they're not.
It's just it's just top heavy LeBron, Anthony Davis, and a bunch of good role players that just
Hmm.
know their role.
Yeah.
and they just go play hard every single game,
Yeah.
and they're nice and rested, and they're gonna put their foot to the pedal and just go crazy in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see Lakers Raptors match up in the finals, just so those Toronto players could get over LeBronto finally.
That is, I don't like that matchup for the Raptors at all.
That's what I want to see.
I don't like that matchup. I mean, obviously, I
I
want to see them in the
think
finals, but I think they, I don't know. I don't
if
have a good
Kyle
feeling
Lowry
about that.
if Kyle Lowry gets the win over LeBron James in the finals, I think he becomes a Hall of Famer, which
Yeah.
is
Oh, yeah, he does because he's borderline right now, probably leaning towards not a Hall of Famer, but that
yeah,
would definitely put him in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
that would put him in the Hall of Fame, which would be just iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that does it. We are finally done with all our positions
Mm,
rankings. We're going to be coming back, maybe not next week, but pretty soon we're going to be coming out with a big board. So
yeah.
stay tuned for that. Hey.
Next week we will have an episode probably discussing either the no positional ranks,
Mm.
or we'll have like a fantasy draft episode where we draft with our friends. But stay tuned for next Monday.